Get Rich Slow with John Wolf. Hey, it's John Wolf. I'm so glad to talk to everybody again. You can always give me a call for my personal advice at 503-890-1919. So I have a playlist about my fourplex. I purchased it in 2019 and I haven't done an update in quite a while. Lots have happened. I've had some significant water leaks and expenses. I've turned over two very heavily used units, and that means money went out and rents went up. But let me show you what that actually looks like on paper. So right here, you see my actual tax form from 2023. This is Schedule E. This is the tax form through the IRS that you put in when you are a landlord and you're receiving rents and have expenses. And you see here $72,000. A bunch of these expenses are significantly higher than when I last did it, except the interest because I refinanced at a somewhat lower rate. And the other things of note here that I just want to draw your attention to is line 18, about $17,000 in depreciation. What's important there is depreciation isn't an actual expense. It's not something I actually paid out of pocket. And then the other 19,000 or line 19, $29,000, ouch, was the cost of turning over basically a unit and a half and a very expensive water leak. So you see the tentative profit and loss is negative. Let's just call that 7,000. And there's also mortgage insurance not here. That was about 6,000. So that should say negative 12, 13,000. But again, this depreciation isn't real. So we're going to call that a $4,000 profit, even on a year where lots went wrong. Let me show you how 2024 went. So this is my tax planner. I gave this to my accountant just a few weeks ago. You can see I actually penciled in the rent I got went up because I did rent increases, even though one of the units wasn't occupied the whole time. Several of the expenses went up like you'd expect. Insurance is decently higher than when I did the last video update a few years ago. Right here, you can actually see the mortgage interest with the mortgage insurance just written in, so you can see that number. And of course, the taxes went up, and of course, utilities went up. And this year, I had to finish turning over one of those two units, so there was still like a, I shouldn't say unexpected. The water leak was an unexpected $10,000 in expenses, but the unit turnover, we can't really call that unexpected. But $8,000 there. So let me just show you, and there's not a perfect way to do this because of the way the calculator works, but let me just input the current numbers into the rental property calculator that I've shown you guys before. So here are the current numbers. And I added a few $1,000s there to cover the cost of the refi. Property taxes went up. The HOAs, this is actually the utilities. And the rents went up. So I actually sent out rent increases about a month or so ago. So this is what they're going to be. And they increased a lot from the new units and finding new tenants, but I'm just doing, the standard and appropriate rent increases, which are more than 3% for all of the units past that. And I have also increased the maintenance fee to 9% because that's more in line with the Portland metro area now. That's all going back to me, however. And then let's take a look at the internal rate of return calculated over 11 years. And bam, wow. You know, when you talk about mutual funds, stocks, and bonds, you see rates of return people tell you to expect, 8%. Now, granted, you don't have to do any work, so that's a big difference there. But here we have 60%, and the total profit, if I were to sell it in 11 years, $742,000. That's hard to imagine. Just a cool 1,800 percent cash return. No big deal, right? Anyways, looking at the first year, this is like actually year 5 numbers that we're really looking at here, the 5.5 since it has the new rent, I guess. We're expecting a positive cash flow of wow, $20,000. Now I think I'm going to spend, I don't know, five, six, $7,000 getting the property exterior totally repainted and getting the caulking all redone. But now we're seeing real positive numbers. And something that I always tell people is this is the get rich slow plan. So get properties, add properties, maintain properties, and then 10, 15 years after you've made your major moves, that's when you start to look rich to a third party. In the middle here, you're just doing a bunch of work. It's going to pay off later. So anyways, you see the sort of estimates on internal rate of return as you move forward, really hovering between 75 and 60% for each year. And the cash flow, going up. This year 11 isn't real because it's showing a sale, but that's real money, right? And going down, I'm just going to adjust this so we can see just based on these numbers, and they're actually going to pretty appropriately scale with inflation past what you see here. But yeah, so $145,000 expected profit later on when the mortgage is finally paid off. And that's, gonna be what a skilled laborer makes. I'm talking about a journeyman plumber working for somebody else, an electrician working for somebody else, or just somebody who does, kicks butt doing a bunch of overtime in more general labor, honestly. So that's just amazing. And it's only with this kind of real estate investment, buying with leverage, and then doing the active management, which you do have to do, where you get, insane numbers like this. We had a couple amazing years as far as what the stock market index funds have done. And they had a couple years of, 20, 24%. That's nothing close to 60%. Now, granted, you don't have to do basically any work to get that. But you doing the work to purchase a property, to maintain it over time, is what can give you these numbers like this. And just want to point out the internal rate of return does dip down over time. And that's actually why it makes sense for people to sell one property, buy two or three, do 1031 exchanges. The other way that you would harvest money to yourself is doing a cash out refinance or maybe HELOC on those properties, so you can start enjoying the money and wealth that you've been working so hard to generate all these years. Now, let me talk a little bit about turning over units. So it is a lot of work, but it's really just management work. You call people and you pay people to do the work. And that's what I really wanted to talk about and what's so important. If you ever talk to me on the phone, I'll tell almost anybody who will listen that I think it's really important that you have easily accessible to you $10,000 per door that you're going to manage, because things come up, and having that cash is the difference between a headache and a real problem, right? And looking at those 2 years, in a little over a year, honestly, I had to shell out $37,000 to make everything right for my tenants and to get it re-rented quickly. And I still came out in the green, every year from the rents, but the money was needed now. So having that money set aside, I can't tell you how important that is and how much peace it brings you. And I don't want to be negative about this, but I want you to think about if you're wanting to do this kind of investment, which I hope you are, and I hope you give me a call, John Wolf, 503-890-1919. But you need to have that extra money set aside. You can't buy a fourplex and spend your every dollar. It's a bad plan. And just moving forward, we, you could have bad years. Like, just imagine you could have a year where you have huge expenses on your fourplex, you had maybe a job loss, and maybe you had a major illness, and all those things coming down on us at the same time. That's the kind of thing that causes us to sell properties when we don't want to, puts us in desperate situations. And that's where you don't win the game. As long as you can sort of keep going and hold on and play the game, you can see the numbers. You start winning really hard over time. Well, anyways, it's John Wolf. I'm so glad that you joined me for this time. you can always give me a call at 503-890-1919. Have an awesome day.